they retreated to the woods and hid. And as Jake said, he realized he forgot his shoes. That was so important. He forgot his shoes. So he went back to the park where this took place. Did he look on the ground and see the body that he had beaten and left for dead? No. Did he call for help? No. Did he have any second thoughts? No. Jake left back and proceeded to hide.
We are about to watch the parole hearing for a case that I think will have your mind spinning on what the right decision is. You see, it was back in 1999 when Jake, who had just accepted to the army, went out to celebrate with a group of friends. He was 18 years old and a handful of days. Now, they went to the park where a brawl broke out, a brawl between two groups of kids. And at the end of the brawl, a 16-year-old boy lay dead on the ground. Now, Jake was ultimately convicted of second-degree murder by a jury of his peers and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Now, the only reason that we're here today is because he had a commutation hearing that we are about to see. So before we watch this parole hearing, we are going to do my favorite thing and take a flashback to the past to his 2022 commutation hearing. And with that, let's jump in.
This is the matter of Jake M. Artigo, DOC number 446422. He is serving a life sentence for second-degree murder, having been sentenced on October the 15th of 2001. Mr. Artigo, is that information accurate?
That's correct.
Okay. Your case has been assigned to Mr. Alvin Roche. He will begin our interview process. Would you please answer any questions he may have?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Mr. Artigo. How are you?
Sir,
Good morning. How are you?
I'm nervous.
Just sit back and
Yes,
relax.
I'm doing. I'm a little nervous, sir.
Sit back,
Sir?
sit back and relax.
Yes. All right.
I have a brief presentation and then we'll have a conversation, okay? Mr. Chairman, fellow board members, we have Jake Michael Artigo, DOC number 446422. Mr. Artigo is here this morning seeking to commute his life sentence for a second-degree murder conviction in the beating death of Lance Idell on June 26, 1999, at the Highland Road Park in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Mr. Artigo was arrested the next morning on June 27 at his home and charged with second-degree murder in the death of Mr. Idell. On April 2nd, 2001, some 22 months after this unfortunate incident that resulted in the loss of human life, Mr. Artigo was found guilty as charged with second-degree murder by a jury of his peers. And on October 15th, 2001, he was sentenced to life and hard labor at DOC without parole, probation, or suspension in sentence. Mr. Artigo has 3 arrests on his adult record with 1 felony conviction. The other 2 minor misdemeanor charges were dismissed in 2001 after his second-degree murder trial. Mr. Article has repeatedly stated in his clemency application and all of his interviews with parole and probation officers that he is very remorseful and he accepts full responsibility for his part in the untimely death of the victim. He has shown how remorseful he is in the death of his victim and the pain that he has inflicted on the victim's family. Mr. Article is currently 42 years old. At the time of the offense, he was 18 years, 21 days old. Just 21 days short of being classified as a juvenile lifer under Louisiana state law. Under Louisiana state law, revised statute 15574.4, a juvenile lifer is considered parole eligible after serving 25 years of the imposed sentence. A difference of just 21 days, in my opinion, does not add any maturity to an individual in making responsible decisions. There is no doubt in my mind that Mr. Artigo made a terrible decision that day. He made a terrible decision when he decided to go to that park. But he has shown that he takes full responsibility for that bad decision. Mr. Artigo, I want you to tell the panel exactly what happened at the Highland Road Park on the evening of June 26, 1999. We need your version. We already know the facts, but we need your version in your words for the permanent record. So exactly what happened?
My brother and I were at the condo that we shared with some friends. We had been drinking. We were pulling beers. On one of the beer runs, they got word that there would be a fight at Highland Road Park. And the topic, the question was, do we want to go watch? Do we want to go check it out? Some people wanted to go, some people didn't. I wanted to go, and I was pretty adamant about it. So we decided we would go to the park. Some people wanted to go to the club. We decided to go to the park. We would go to the club afterwards. We arrived at Highland Road Park. Specific time, I cannot recall. There's a side street that runs alongside of the parking lot. We parked there. We noticed that there was a group already in the park. We waited for a certain amount of specific time. Nothing took place, so we decided to go in and check it out. When we went in, I noticed that I knew some of the guys. We began talking, began explaining to them, my plans for the future. That I was trying to go into the military, and I wanted them to come visit. And through the course of this, the greetings, fight broke out. I ran over to break the fight up. In doing so, I was struck. I just turned and I began fighting the first person I saw. At specifically how long, we went to the ground. And we were fighting on the ground, and then he wasn't on top of me anymore. I jumped up and I began just fighting from encounter to encounter.
Mr. Artigo,
Yes, sir.
were you intoxicated at this point?
Yes, sir. I was highly intoxicated.
Go ahead.
And then at a I don't know the sequence, but I know at a certain point in the initial altercation, one of the guys I was with was Lance was holding Lance up, and I began kicking him in the face several times. I don't know a specific amount of time. I just began kicking him in the face, and then from there we get up. I see that some of the guys that we were together with were fighting. I split that up, and then it wasn't long after that people began to leave. Like cars were leaving out the parking lot. We left. Got to the vehicle. I noticed my shoes were missing. Our tires in the vehicle have been slashed. So while we're dealing with that, while we're processing everything else going on, I said, let me go back and get my shoes. We headed back into the park. I found one of my shoes. Another one of the guys that came with me brought me my other one. And while I'm putting them back on, I see there's some guys at the railing, at one of the railings that were on the outside of the parking area. We began a slight, verbal altercation. And then I noticed some more guys, some more individuals that were with us were on side me. And then in that moment, I said, kill them. They took off running. I followed as well. When I reached Lance, he was on the ground and I began to kick him. After that, I don't know specifically how long we were there. I know my brother began saying, let's go, let's go. So I headed out following him. And then we got back to the vehicles. We moved the vehicles to try to get them out the road. And we began walking down Highland Road Park. And while doing so, when my brother had contacted one of his friends, he drove by, we got in the vehicle, and we headed back to our place. It was there.
Thank you, Mr. Artigo.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you for your honesty.
Yes, sir.
Pretty much what the report says. Now, Mr. Artigo, if you had a chance to speak to the victim's family, what would you tell them about what you just explained?
First, I want to apologize. My actions, there's no excuse. There's no words I can say. There's nothing I can do. I know that nothing will bring Lance back. Nothing can undo. But in a second, that my life will be spent as an expression of the remorse I feel for what I've done, and that I hope with every part, give me a moment, this is kind of rough. I live now, presently, and will continue to, in the hopes of preventing this from ever taking place again, and of causing anyone to have to suffer again, as Lance did and the rest of his family. And that, I realized what got me to this point was the loss that they had to endure, each of them, Lance and his family. And for that, I'm sorry. But I know that the person I'm not that individual. And I hope that if given an opportunity, I can lead someone else away from being that same individual. And I just want to tell you.
Thank you, sir. Opposition in Mr. Artigo's case comes from the East Baton Rouge Parish District Attorney's Office. First Assistant DA Ms. Tracy Barbera, and Ms. Barbera is in the hearing room, and I will allow her to make her statement at the appropriate time. We have 3 impact statements. One from the victim's mother, one from the victim's godmother, and a cousin. We also have 14 letters of opposition in this case. The letters come from grandparents, uncles, aunts, siblings, cousins, friends, and former classmates of Mr. Lance Ida. In support of clemency is the victim's mother, and she's here present and will make a statement. The stepfather, aunts, uncles, and cousins. We have 8 character reference letters from his friends and former classmates. We have 3 letters of support from fellow offenders that Jake helped to help them to gain their sobriety by living in a rehabilitation dormitory, and I'll talk about the new men's ministry a little bit later. But they credit Jake in helping them see that there was a better way of life. The last letter I want to mention is from Reverend Robert S. Hyde. He is now the director of faith-based programs at the Mississippi State Penitentiary at Parchment, Mississippi. Reverend Hyde is employed by the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary and was a former pastor of Grace Baptist Church in Angola, Louisiana. He was also the spiritual advisor to Mr. Artigo. And Mr. Artigo worked with him many years at Angola. And in this letter, he explains that Jake had been very remorseful in his conversation with him, regretful, and numerous times he said, man, what a horrible thing I did. I took the life of a human being. I've caused his family so much pain. And he also stated in his letter that Jake, in trying to make amends for this, volunteered for a new program in Angola called the New Men's Ministry, which they, in the program, they have a rehabilitation dormitory. And Jake volunteered to be a mentor to live in that dormitory 24/7 to help the offenders rid themselves of addictions. And 3 of those individuals wrote letters telling how Jake made a difference in their lives. Jake has a low risk assessment. He has a low needs assessment. He's earned his GED. He's housed in minimum custody. He has a good institutional record, positive remarks by the staff. Jake, what is your current job assignment?
I work at the HVAC maintenance shop. I'm assigned to ASNO, but I work for the maintenance. And I'm currently studying to become a certified HVAC technician.
And how long have you had the HVAC job?
3 months. 3 months.
And what was your previous job?
Previous job, when I moved here from Angola, I was a peer support minister, and they just kind of had me in limbo because when I came out as a trustee, they took my trustee status. I had to be in population for 6 months, so I was just kind of in limbo with that. I was in school going for project construction management, and once I was able to get my trustee status, they allowed me to then get a trustee job we'll go to the trustee maintenance shop, right?
How long did you live in the rehabilitation dormitory with the new men's ministry?
9 months on the inpatient. When we were on lockdown, we kept the guys segregated from the rest of the population. And I did 3 months in the sober living dorm, which was created to give them a kind of like a transition dorm back into population. It was a support dorm for sober living. 3 months in there, roughly.
Okay. Thank you, Jay. Let's talk about your vocational education. And I'm not going to mention all of them, but you have vocational education, mostly in automotive. You are certified as a engine performance technician, brake technician, steering and suspension technician, automatic transmission technician. You have a diploma in automotive technology. You are a technician in refrigerant, recycling, and recovery. Exhaust system technician. It goes on and on. You probably have at least 15 or 16 certifications in auto repair and collision. Tell us about that.
Well, I went through the vocational school at Angola and received the automotive degree. And then when the reentry program began, we started with we began the ASE program. We started with the automotive, and it was while we were doing that was the alternative sentencing program that they began for the guys in New Orleans. While we were doing that allowed some of us, the mentors, to become certified in other areas as well in automotive trade. So that's when I was able to take all those certifications while I was mentoring.
You also have certificates from the National Center for Construction Education and Research, core curriculum, and you have 2 certificates in electrical. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you also have 1 in sheet metal work. And I see letters of recognition. You are a mentor in the Angola reentry program and the new men's ministry. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Let me get back to my report. Programs completed, anger management, paid your age, sober group AA, 100 hours pre-release, making peace with the past, codependency, a substance abuse program, celebrate recovery, a substance abuse program, trauma healing, Malachi Dash, moral compass, thank you for a change, and many faith-based programs. Would you like to mention any other program that you've completed in your 22 years, 6 months of incarceration?
Did you say celebrate recovery?
Mm-hmm.
I can't say any one of them specifically that stood out. It was going through each one of them right? So I think that about covers it. I think it covered them.
Organizational participation, the Angola Reentry Mentor Program, started by Judge Knight, and the new men's ministry. So, Jake, let's start talking about your drug addiction and your alcohol addiction.
Right.
I've read this report 3 or 4 times, so I know exactly when you started using alcohol. So tell the panel exactly when you started using alcohol.
I want to say I was like 11, 12 is when I first started. When I say I started just experimenting, it wasn't. I didn't get heavy until in my mid-teenage years, 14, 15, 16.
In your interview with parole and probation, you said you were 15 years old.
Sir,
In your interview with probation and parole, you said you were 15 years old when you started drinking with your friends, and
That's-
alcohol was responsible for you being expelled from high school. Is that correct?
correct. That's when I was communicating with the guy. And if I recall, he was more adamant on when I started heavily drinking to get drunk, right? And going out with friends and specifically trying to get out of just drinking. I think that's what we narrowed it down to about 15.
And at 17, you said that you had started drinking at least 2 cans of 22-ounce of beer and an unspecified amount of hard liquor.
Yes, sir.
When's the last time you consumed alcohol of any kind? Jake, today is
2017, 2018, 2017. It was some home brew. I was at the I want to say the Deliberation processing plant. They had some home brew, and I drank a little bit.
and you also stated in your interview that you didn't start using illegal drugs until the age of 20. Is that correct?
No, sir, that's not correct. I started using illegal drugs prior to coming to prison. But it was once I came to prison that I began using highly addictive drugs, right? Establishing an addiction to.
At what age did you start using illegal drugs?
Probably around the same time I started drinking, experimenting with marijuana at a very young age, and then started taking later on pharmaceuticals, and continued on LSD, ecstasy, things like that. Got away from that, and I believe that's what I told the parole guy. But when I turned 18, I let all that stuff, a lot of that go, but I continued drinking. I left a lot of drug stuff alone, and I continued drinking.
So tell the panel this morning what you have done while incarcerated to conquer the demon of alcohol and drugs and gain your sobriety.
Well, I went through countless programs trying to figure out what it was why I couldn't let this go, why I couldn't. But for me, it wasn't just about addiction, it was just dealing with life. I never truly learned how to function in life or around people. I thought I had to meet everybody's standards socially, or academically, or anything I was applying myself to. And a lot of times, substances will give me that boost of confidence, give me that added edge that I thought I needed, ultimately creating an addiction. I was nurturing an addiction, but I had to become comfortable with who I am apart from all that and establish boundaries and be able to say you know what, maybe I can't do things. It was just learning how to function like a normal adult, going through the process of life, facing challenges and overcoming them apart from a coping mechanism or using substance as a way to manage stress.
Mr. Article, what is your sobriety plan if and when you ever release? How will you maintain your sobriety and stay away from illegal drugs and alcohol?
I have a very good support system with my family. They are sober. Don't struggle with it. None of them struggle with addictions. I'm getting lined up to go to intensive therapy. I work a lot better on individual with individual treatment, but as far as anything beyond that, I'm gonna ensure, and we're already laying the groundwork in the event that I do go to Colorado with my family, that I will have the necessary support. They will be aware of the issues that I have, and we will have safeguards as far as just having people available too, and people who understand where I come from, so ensure that I am not pressured into a situation
Mr. Article,
that naturally would wind up working against life recovery.
Mr. Article,
Yes, sir.
are you a drug addict?
Yes, sir.
Are you an alcoholic?
Yes, sir.
Do you realize that you can never drink alcohol again in your life?
Yes, sir. I do. I know that. I think, and from the way that you speak, I know that you're aware it is a choice that you have to make. And if you're conscious and humble enough to understand your limitations, that I can never go, I'm totally powerless when it comes to this substance, that I know I can never choose that as an option for me to just for recreational purposes or a coping mechanism. You know as well as I do that at a certain point, you have to choose to want to go down that road. And that's a choice I never want to make.
You have a disease and you have to treat that disease for the rest of your life.
Yes, sir.
Let's talk about your disciplinary conduct.
Yes, sir.
Article has 20 disciplinary write-ups and 22.5 years of incarceration. 18 of those write-ups are Class B write-ups. The last one was an aggravated work offense in September of 2018. He received a reprimand and had no changes in quarters or loss of good time. So it was a fairly minor, but he had no write-ups in the last 5 years. Transition plan, understand your transition plan. You have two options. One is to live with your parents in Baton Rouge, and the other is to apply for interstate compact to Colorado to live with an aunt in Colorado Springs. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Have you decided which one you're gonna use?
My first choice would be to go to Colorado.
One vote along? Do you have any comments? Concerns, remarks, observations?
Yes, sir, Mr. Roche. First, I'd just like to say to the family of the victim, I'm sorry for y'all loss. Jake's been here for a little while with us at Hunt. He's been doing well. As you noted, he's completed a lot of programs. He works as a trustee for our maintenance department here at the facility. I guess what stands out to me looking at his record is that he started working on himself, taking programs all the way back to as early as 2002, 2003. Even knowing that he was facing a life sentence. So, I commend him for working on himself, even when he didn't realize there was an opportunity for parole.
Thank you, Warden. Mr. Chairman, I do have a recommendation in this case, and I will share it with my fellow board members at the conclusion of this interview.
Thank you. I don't see any other questions. So now we'll hear from your supporters. Ms. Cherie Dark. Ms. Dark, are you there?
Your name up there.
Here. So sorry, I apologize. Yes, I would like to speak on half. Can you hear me?
If you would mind introducing yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know.
Yes, sir. My name is Cherie Dark. I live in Colorado Springs. Jake is my cousin. We were really, really close. It was me, Troy, and Jake all those years growing up. And then he was obviously made some bad decisions that I think he's paid for in the last 22 years. And I would just love to have the opportunity to support him and bring him home. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments, Ms. Dark. Then we'll hear from Ms. Nancy Pickett.
Yes, sir. I'm going to read Nancy Pickett's, if that's okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. My name is Nancy Pickett, and I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado. We were devastated when we found out there was a fight and one person, Lance, died and my nephew was arrested. We couldn't stop thinking about the family that lost their loved one and couldn't believe my nephew had a part in that. From the very beginning, I said he should suffer consequences if he was found responsible. He was found guilty, but his sentence seemed excessive. He has served more than half his life in prison. He entered prison at 18 and is now 42. We are praying Jake is granted parole and can show he learned from that tragic night. He has a job waiting for him, a vehicle, a place to live. Our family support is strong, and we will provide the necessary support he needs. I have 3 responsible, successful children who are very willing to help in this transition. I also have numerous friends that are willing and able to help, including a psychiatrist and a therapist. 15 of them are at the Garden of the Gods this morning, praying for a positive outcome. But he too will have to be responsible. If not, I will have no problem calling law enforcement and turning him in.
I would also like to say that I have a friend that owns an automotive shop who's more than willing for him to work for him.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we'll hear from Ms. Diane Gyro.
That's me. Good morning, I'm Diane Gyro. I'm Jake Ortega's mother. I would like to take this opportunity to express my sincere condolences to the victim's family. Losing a loved one, no matter the circumstances, is life-changing for everyone. I feel certain stating that I know that this was not in Jake's plans, and Jake is quite regretful of his decision on that tragic death. My vision, my hope is for Jake to be granted clemency and parole because he was so young, having just turned 18 when he was incarcerated. He will be starting from scratch. He has plenty of support ready to help him on his journey to being a responsible, productive citizen. Given his experiences, perhaps even be able to give back to others and help them find the right path. That being said, I would like his permanent address to be with my sister who lives out of state. I will make sure that Jake has a reliable vehicle, giving him the opportunity to have no issues getting to work. My sister Nancy would take over his reentry into society and support him, guide him. I don't expect Jake to acclimate in a day, it will take time, and my sister and her children, Jake's cousins, will support him and guide him. Jake's adult life has been spent as an inmate. While being incarcerated, he chose to continue with his education, learning skills, along with participation in programs such as anger management and others, instead of just stagnating and giving up hope. Hope for perhaps clemency and parole one day. Jake has a loving and very supportive family, and if he is granted clemency and parole, he would have a loving and supportive family members' help, along with many others that are willing to step in and give a guiding hand. Jake was on his way to being a contributing, responsible citizen when this tragedy occurred. He in no way anticipated such an about-face to his life. I'm certain Jake would not have chosen his current path. If given the opportunity, I'm confident Jake can and will show he is worth a second chance.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from the opposition. Before we hear from the opposition, I'd like to put on the record a few other people whose names I didn't read at the very beginning. Also present in opposition is Mr. Robert Mathern, Terry Mathern, Landon Dozart, and Miss Lisa Idell. Also on Zoom is Mr. Bart Lassard. So now we'll hear from the opposition. Ms. Brandy Hughes. Good morning, Ms. Hughes. Can you hear us?
Yes, but that says Bart.
Good morning. If you will introduce yourself and tell us what you'd like us to know, please.
Good morning. First, I'd like to address the age of 18 and 21 days. He may have only been 21 days older than 18, but he was old enough to enlist. So I believe that 21 days is more than old enough for him to be convicted, like he was, of second-degree murder and pay the crime of second-degree murder. I don't think we should be discussing that 21 days or reflecting of him with the juvenile system at all. We should not even be putting that to address today. He was 18. We sit here and we listen to him talk and describe what he did to Lance that night and the use of his drugs and alcohol. Was he under the influence that night? Okay, probably. But we sat there and listened to him with no remorse, as far as I'm concerned, describe his beating of Lance. He beat to death a 16-year-old with his hands, with his feet, and left him there. But he was not drunk enough, he just described, to go back and get his own shoes. He was not drunk enough to make his way home and to clean and wash that night his own bloody clothes. So this is not a teenager, an 18-year-old, who was oh so drunk that he went out and just happenly got into a fist fight that night. You heard him describe he was pumped up and amped up and he wanted to fight. And he said, kill him. He had malice intent to cause bodily harm that resulted in the murder of a 16-year-old who was my cousin. He has been afforded this time in jail to make something out of his life because he has no stressors in his life. He has none of the things that were going on in his life at that time. What he has is just an abundance of time to do this. You know what Lance has? None of those opportunities at all. None of them. It's a slap in the face to sit here and listen to the list of things that he's gotten to do in there. They've only been made possible because he sat his ass in jail. The support system is a joke. They're the same people that were sitting behind him in court making the same laugh that I sat here and saw his mom make when he described kicking Lance in the face while someone held him. His mom behind just then made a laugh. Maybe it's unintentional. Maybe it's because of the nerves that she has. But this was the same thing that we witnessed in court day after my family sat there. He is a murderer, straight out murderer. It is character. It is not an instance of I pulled a gun and shot somebody. He was not threatened. There was not a, oops, I did this. This was, I did it. I beat someone to death.
We need you to wrap it up. We try to give everyone 3 minutes to talk and you're over that, but I'll give you a few seconds to wrap it up.
I have opposition to Jake getting out because I think he is the same exact person that he went in. He does not know how to deal with the stresses of the outside world. And he was convicted of second-degree murder with no parole.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your comments. Miss Lucia Idell am I pronouncing that?
Good morning. It's Alicia. and I'm the victim's sister. I was not prepared for this because I was under the intention that I could not say anything on the meeting. But I just want to say, Lance and I was 5 years apart, and we were together every day of our lives. And whenever you took somebody from me, you took one of my best friends. Lance doesn't get to see all the things that we went through in life. He doesn't get to meet his nephew and his, his other brother that my mom was pregnant whenever he got killed. That's a whole nother story. Brandy, you said it really well. I appreciate your speech because I felt everything she said. I don't feel like Jake is remorseful. As Brandy said, not only did we go through it every single day in court, his mom just sitting there with this smirk on her face, never once came and said, I'm sorry, to us, to my mom. I don't feel like he should be granted to get out because like Brandy said, he committed a crime and the punishment for it is life. Lance doesn't get that chance to do all the things that Jake got to do. And I have just about 2 weeks ago, I was able to truly forgive Jake after all these years. I forgive you for what you did, Jake. I do. But I think that you have to pay the price for what you did, and that was a life sentence. So again, this was all over because I wasn't expecting to be able to speak, but I don't feel like you should be granted parole.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your comments. Now we'll hear from Ms. Lisa Ida.
I'm excited. Thank you, Mom. As I stand here today wondering why in the world this person would ever get the chance to get out of prison any way, shape, or form, it really makes me so angry. Oh, wait, I forgot he does have his rights. Unlike my beautiful son, I didn't get this chance. This monster has taken so much away from me and my family. Lance was such a beautiful person inside and out. He was very intelligent, a straight A student, a freehand artist. I was so excited to see what life had held for him. He was about to graduate, but instead of graduating, we could only celebrate his life at the ceremony. Have no more Christmases, no more birthdays. When I heard Jake was up for this, it just floored me. I just took everything out of me, and then I have to sit here again and hear it over again. I beg of y'all not to let him out because I feel like he has no remorse. I feel like he's the same person. He got out for a little while. Had a little bit of freedom, he drinking again while in prison, doing drugs while in prison. I mean, I just think if he gets out, it's gonna be the same person. Just took everything. Have to live our life every day, and we talk about him a lot just to keep him alive. My son Landon, I always call him. I was pregnant for him whenever Lance was killed, and he talks about him like he knows him, because that's how much we talk. Never forget him, beautiful and wonderful.
Thank you very much. Ms. Barbera?
This is Tracy Barbera, Physician Attorney's Office. This is, it's not supposed to be personal for me, right? Because I'm a professional, I'm a prosecutor. But I remember these people, and Dana Cummings and I tried this case together, and it was so emotional. So emotional, dealing with all these young people, a large group of young people that made terrible decisions, absolutely terrible decisions. I remember standing in that courtroom when the guilty verdicts came back. I remember it like it was yesterday. And it's so hard to explain the process, and all of you know me. I respect it. I am a red, white, and blue lady. I respect the law. I have spent 33 years as a prosecutor, and it's so hard to explain to these loving family members. And I know there's loving family members on the other side. It's so hard to explain to them how we get to this situation. And they sat in court that day and heard Judge Richard Anderson impose a life sentence. And so, and this is not about me, this is about them. But I'm sitting here when we first got word that Mr. Origo had applied for clemency and the first hearing was set and then postponed until today. All I've thought about is, what's your Hail Mary, Tracy? What's your Hail Mary? What can you say to convince somebody on this board that it's not? And quite frankly, I don't know the one thing that I can say. I understand the concern about talking about his age. I would like to say that, say he had been 17, it would be 25 years of parole. He hasn't served yet. And I don't know if this is true, but I have been told that Governor Edwards, when he does commute sentences, when he grants parole eligibility, he's not doing it past his term. And his term will end in January. Again, I don't know if that's true or not. If it is true, my concern today is that if the board recommends commutation and Governor Edwards, in his rights under the law, grants it, he grants immediate parole eligibility, then Jake Origo will have served less than the 2 years than he would have served had he been accused of at the time. But please don't take that as me standing here before you saying I think he should be. It's just something that I like to point out. I am concerned about his disciplinary record. Members of the board, I've stood here or through Zoom for many, many years, and we've seen people in jail for 50 years, they have less write-ups than Mr. Origo. And I know that write-ups are more frequent when young offenders go because they have to take time to ensure they get used to their surroundings. And I understand that. But for him to have some, I realize he hasn't had it in 5 years, but I ask you to please look at the nature of the ones that have occurred later during his years of incarceration. The nature of them. After he had taken all of these classes and he had started the self-awareness back in the board said in the early 2000s, there were still write-ups, significant write-ups. And I don't know which ones. So I stand here with this family. I feel like, although we haven't necessarily kept in touch all over the last 20-something years, I feel reunited with them today. And I do stand here in solidarity with them and ask that you please not recommend commutation of his sentence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bell. Mr. Artigo, is there anything you'd like to say before we turn it over to Ms. Cameron?
No, sir.
No. Ms. Cameron?
Yes, sir. This case is one of the harder ones. It absolutely is. I think personally for me, because I knew what happened personally. Jake and I grew up in the same neighborhood. He's a few years younger than me, so I knew about the violence that was happening in our neighborhood. Fights at Brett Parks were common, which is still kind of shocking to me because we weren't in a bad neighborhood, but the kids were just, it still baffles me to figure out what was going on back then. But Jake grew up in violence. I know, in the packet, we haven't discussed it much today, but he grew up watching his father, beat his mother. He was a victim of those beatings. His brother Troy was too. Unfortunately, Jake, surviving that, Jake's go-to was the drugs and alcohol. That's what he went to. And he had straightened up, was planning to go in the Navy, had an enlistment date set, and they were celebrating that night when they decided to go and watch this fight. That decision right there is one that Jake, every time we have a conversation, it's the one that comes up the most. It was my decision to go and watch the fight. I shouldn't have done that. We should have gone where everybody else wanted to go. The remorse that Jake showed today is not just for the panel's benefit. It's not for the people watching's benefit. It's literally the way Jake recounts what happened every time we talk about it. He struggles. That struggle is what caused him to go to drugs while he was incarcerated, and he went to stronger drugs than he had been doing on the street. Jake knows that he can never do drugs or alcohol again. As he's expressed, he's planning on individual intensive therapy because he does recognize that he does not, although the New Men program at Angola and has been instrumental here as well with a program that they're starting here that's still in the development stages, as I understand it. He knows that for his own benefit, he needs that intensive individual treatment, and that is our plan. He has also agreed to go through Parole project. If we can get him enrolled, they are not accepting people until they're at the parole stage at this point. So we will try to make that part of his reentry plan as well. That program is crucial for that initial transition back into society. You know, I sat here and listened. I can't imagine the victim's pain. As a mother myself, I can't imagine losing my son, and I feel so sorry for what they've been through. But what Mr. Roche noted is true. We have psychological studies that show that the brain is not fully developed until the age of 26. Jake was barely 18 that night. He had funneled what he has described to me to be almost a case of beer. And I know y'all can't tell, but Jake's really not a big dude. So a case of beer on board his system would have put him in a state where he had no control. And that is not an excuse. It's just it's fact, unfortunately. If this board, I would like to remind the board that if this board does choose to communicate Jake today, he is only 42. So under the Act 122 and 2045, he would have to do another 3 years to hit that 25 years. And that is obviously a possibility. During that 3 years, Jake plans to continue his what will be next month 4 years of sobriety. And lastly, I would like to note that Jake's disciplinary write-up stopped when he got sober. He is 4 years sober as of next month, completely sober. And he has not had a write-up since 2018. So on that note, Jake and his family would just like this board to have mercy today and grant his commutation so that we can get him back into society, get him the intensive treatment he needs to deal with what he's got going on, and give him an opportunity to make amends to the best he can in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cameron.
Yes,
Okay, Mr. Roche.
Mr. Artigo, before I get to my recommendation, I'd like to thank the victim's family.
I was supposed to be able to speak. Jerry, I'm sorry.
Well, we allow 3 speakers and we've had 3.
And I have 6 people, so who do you have? Lisa and my daughter. You have.
Ma'am, I'll let you speak. I'm not going to cut you off. Go ahead.
Talk about age.
I've got to limit you to 3 minutes, though.
I get it. We talk about age. This is Lance. Lance was 16 and a half years old. He wants to say he was drinking that night and he drank a case of beer. As she said, he's very small. My husband drinks. I know what a case of beer does to a person. that guy would not have even been walking. Now less being able to move around and do these actions that he said. And let's go back to what he said. He come back to get his damn shoes. That's pretty comprehending what he was doing. But he also came back and he beat and he kicked Lance. And he said in his own words, kill him. If that is not intent, if that is alcohol talking and whatever, no. He said, kill him. And he did. He did. And you think that is remorse? It is not. It is not. Because after he killed Lance, he actually beat someone else. I wish y'all had the picture of that guy. The only guy that stood up to him that night. He beat him severely too. So do I think he should be eligible for parole? No, not in 5 years, not in 40 years. Let me also say, Sunday, October the 1st, would be Lance's 41st birthday. Do we get to have a party? Do we get to sing happy birthday? No. I will go to Lance's grave and put flowers. And I will look up to the heaven and tell him how much I love and miss him. That's all. That's all I will get to do every year for his birthday. But he still celebrates his. You know why? Because he made a choice that night. He made a choice. Lance did not have a choice that night, nor does he have any more choices. So I beg of you not to give him this opportunity of parole.
Okay.
They need that big.
We're ready to resume, Mr. Russia. Ready to go? Just wait. Mr. Artigo, I want to speak to the victim's family first. I want to thank you. It took a lot of courage and fortitude to come to this hearing room and to make your statements and make your request known to this board. It takes a lot of courage, and I appreciate it because the victims are always part of this process. In making a decision, this panel has to consider the crime. Always consider the crime. This crime was a horrible crime. But we also have to look at who the person is today. Lance has taken tremendous programs. I'm sorry. Jake has taken tremendous amount of program. He's addressed his substance abuse, both drugs and alcohol, with substance abuse treatment, Celebrate Recovery, codependence, and sober. He attends NA and AA meetings on a regular basis. He has volunteered for numerous programs such as the Angola Reentry Mentor Program, and especially the New Man's Ministry, where he helped other individuals conquer their addictions to drugs and alcohol. He has armed himself with multiple vocational skills, HVAC, automotive, He has a paralegal diploma from the Blackstone Institute. Based upon the positive remarks of Ward Bolon, the community service he has rendered as a mentor, excellent programs, excellent advancements in his education is in the area of vocational skills, the mitigating circumstance of his age at the time the offense was committed. My recommendation is to recommend to the governor to commute his sentence to 75 years with parole eligibility after serving 25 years.
Thank you, Mr. Moshe. Mr. Freeman?
This is a real hard case, considering everything. I also want to thank y'all for showing up today. None of us know the loss or can feel the loss that y'all are feeling. I also thank the family for showing up and supporting him. My vote will also be to commute the sentence to 75 years with probation after 25.
Parole eligible. Ms. Jackson?
To the Idell family, I'm so sorry about the loss of your people. I truly am. I won't even pretend to fully understand what it feels like, but I can certainly imagine. Say something, but I don't want you to be offended by it at all. And I want you to know it's coming from a place of concern and compassion for you all. You know, I've only been on this board a couple of years, and there have been a lot of profound moments in hearings. And this was a profound moment today. But I want to share with you a profound moment that we had at a parole hearing a few weeks ago, where a woman had lost her son as well. And she came to the hearing, and when she got up to the podium, she said, I came here fully intending to oppose the release of the person. But then she said, I talked to a very wise young man. And that young man told me that my God isn't just my God. He's the God of both sides. And her response was, whatever God's will is, I will accept. And I say that it was profound for me to hear someone say that God is just not my God, it's God of it. I've listened very carefully. And I know for the family, what you see is the same person that took your loved one's life. Don't know that you will ever be able to see beyond that. And I do understand that. But what we see, someone for some 22 years has done a lot good. Not just working on himself, but one of the things that impresses me the most about any individual who's serving time is not just what they do for themselves, to improve themselves. But when you have other offenders saying, this person has made a tremendous difference in my life, then I know that that person is making every effort he can to make amends for the harm that he has caused. by returning some good to somebody else in the world. And that's what I see with Mr. Artigo's performance during his time of incarceration. I think he has done everything that he can do as a human being to show his remorse by trying to be the best person he can be, not only for himself, for others as well. And so I don't want you to take my vote or any vote of these board members in any way, minimizing what you're going through. What you can do. But we have to look at who he was then. We have to look at who he is now. And I will say, nobody in this room is the same person who makes the same choices that we do at 18, 42, or 70. You know, and so after looking at his record and what he's accomplished, my vote likewise is to recommend a commutation to 75 years with parole eligibility and serving.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. I also would like to thank victims for being here today and having the courage to come and speak. There's very little I can add. I think the words of all of my colleagues, especially Judge Jackson, certainly resonate with me. My vote likewise is to recommend to the governor that he commute the sentence to 75 years with parole eligibility after 25 years. So you have a unanimous vote, 4 members. So we will recommend to the governor that he commute your sentence to 75 years with parole eligibility after you serve 25 years.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today.
Now, that was the commutation hearing that happened in 2023, which means that the only thing he was given, because the governor did sign it, Governor Edwards, is that he doesn't have to serve life in prison without the opportunity at parole. So we're about to watch his 2025 parole hearing where he can be denied. Now, we're going to see the familiar faces from the victim side and from the side of the inmate, and we will see Tracy Barbera again. And I didn't realize this, but Tracy tried the case. She was the prosecutor in this case. She was the woman who found him, was able to get the guilty verdict. So that's kind of fascinating, a fascinating twist. Now, a few things off my chest, and then I'll read an article. I mean, there's it felt burden. It felt, I love Judge Bonnie Jackson, and you could say that it was words of wisdom that she was spitting, but it just felt, if I was on the receiving end of it, I would have felt that I was being attacked from all sides. The board seemed clearly determined on releasing him. Even Noe Roche seemed to have little care for the victims. And whenever you look at it from the victim side, it is just terrifying. But this is not a simple case. I mean, I know that as a I I was never a fighter myself, but I've been in groups when brawls went down around that age, and I've seen, the kids do the craziest things, and you see kids that are just laid out, and I've been in situations where I could have been the one that gotten totally wrecked. I mean, we all have stories, right? We all have stories where things can go sideways so quickly. And I think that's what makes this a little bit difficult to wrap our mind around. But then again, when you hear from the side of the victims, just how horrific it was, and we're going to hear more of it, it's a mind twist. And it is, I don't, I mean, let's put it this way. When I listen to these hearings, my head goes every which direction. And when you listen to it outside, I guess, of a bubble, right? That's the right word. If you just wait a minute, there's a kid who is 18 who in a group fight killed someone, and he's in prison for life without the possibility of parole. I mean, with the worst of the worst, and we have seen the worst of the worst. And this, I think, what makes it so hard to wrap one's mind around is that it's relatable. Maybe for yourself, or maybe you had a brother, or maybe you had, a friend like who you're like, wow. I mean, like I could have been in prison. But the family, I'll tell you, so Sir Richard found a Facebook post, which they use Jake Ortega's actual Facebook, which he doesn't have, which I wonder if this in itself is a violation. And it says of like, like breaking the law, right? I don't know. Who knows? But at the age of 18, Ortega's future was bright and full. So this is written on behalf of Jake. So they actually, this was written in 2014, but it's the family perspective that he's the victim, right? Was bright and full of potential. After enlisting in the United States Navy, he decided to go with some friends to celebrate his deployment to basic training on the 9th of July, 1999. Unfortunately, after having several beers, he accompanied some friends to a local park to watch a fist fight. Isn't interesting, several beers, not over a case of beers. However, one of the groups that were to fight did one of the groups that were to fight did show, leaving the others charged and looking, I guess it's just not written that well, looking to take their frustrations on and fury out on anybody. Those who took the brunt of this later became known as Ortega Group, being outnumbered 2-to-1, receiving head blows from their beer bottles and dodging cars that were attempting to run over them. They were left with no choice but to fight and defend their lives. So as you can see, like I can believe the story about their family making faces and things like that. It seems that again they're viewing themselves as the victims. The following morning, then so they're fighting for their lives, right? According to the family or whoever's running this Facebook page. The following morning, on June 26, 1999, at 4:00 a.m., Jake Ortega was awakened by the Baton Rouge Police Department, handcuffed and taken into custody. This is how and when Jake Ortega found out that someone had lost their life that night. Jake was charged with second-degree murder and faced trial April 2001. Subsequently, after conflicting testimony by all parties involved, there was only one commonality. Somehow, everyone was able to offer an inconsistent account of what took place between Jake Ortega and the victim. Even in the midst of this, at least 12 people fighting, bottles flying, cars racing around. The prosecutor witness were able to give play-by-play account of the unfortunate. For Jake, he was known by everyone present that night, in the exception of one or two. Thus, the investigation attention focused entered on him, and he began molding a case against him. There is strong probability that alcohol, anger, and just mere human error led to. So they're basically saying he's innocent, he's innocent, he's innocent. All right. Do you think the parole board, this parole board, which has been tough, they're not loyal to the old governor? You know, the old governor Edwards, he did so many pardons and commutations right before he left office that Sir Richard actually made a link in the we actually made a playlist. You can still see it. It's called The Purge. So governor was handing these things out left and right like hotcake, and now we're about to see the parole hearings of them. So what do you think they're going to parole? Let's find out.
Today we have for parole consideration Jake Ortega, DOC number 446422, who's a first felony offender who was convicted of second-degree murder, and on October 14, 2001 was sentenced to life that was later commuted to 75 years in East Baton Rouge Parish. Your parole eligibility date was 12/8/25. Your good time date is 9/7/64. Your full term date is 12/7/75. Does that information sound correct to you, Mr. Ortega?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, well, go ahead and tell us, what did you do to get yourself in this kind of trouble, and what have you done since that would make us consider releasing you early?
First, I'd like to say good morning to the board and everyone. Last time at the clemency hearing, I had difficulty communicating my thoughts with the board. So if you don't mind, I took notes this time. I'd like to read from them, if that's okay. It's fine. All right. On the evening of June 26th, my brother and I, along with some friends, were at our condo drinking alcohol in celebration of my recent enlistment to the Navy, would be fulfillment of a lifelong dream of military service. Throughout the evening, we consumed multiple cases of beer in a form of competitive drinking. While on a beer run, my brother received a page from a friend who informed him of a fight taking place at Highland Road Park. We all discussed the idea of going to watch, with me being the deciding factor since I wanted to go see it. We all agreed afterwards, we just go ahead and go to a club. That's how we spend the rest of the night. Arriving at the park, we stopped on one of the side streets bordering the parking area. There, we waited watching a group inside the area. After some time passed with nothing happening, we made the collective decision, minus Doug, who was sleeping, to go in and check out what was going on. We woke Doug up, telling him we were going in. He jumped up and he and David ran into the parking area with the rest of us following. All right, so the guys already there briefly went on the defensive, but upon realizing we weren't the ones they'd been waiting on, the mood shifted. I began speaking with some and explained my commitment to the military and that I wanted them, Chad and Joey, to come visit before I left. While we were speaking, a fight broke out between Doug and Andrew, and I immediately ran over, pulling Doug away when someone struck me from behind. I reacted by turning and fighting the first person I saw, Lance Adele, whom I did not know before this night, and not until afterwards that it was him that I was fighting. After this, I went from encounter to encounter fighting, even breaking up a fight between Troy and David, my brother and one of my co-defendants. Alan then started his car and began driving toward us, forcing a group of us to jump out of the way. Made a couple of circles around the lot before his vehicle stalled. Once this happened, me, Doug, and David surrounded him and began beating him through the driver and passenger side window. Leaving this encounter, we surrounded Lance as he was on the ground in a seated position. I squatted down in front of him and began kicking him in the face and in the eye. Soon after this, cars began leaving and we made our way to ours. Reaching the vehicles, we noticed the tires had been slashed, and as things settled down, I realized I lost my shoe. While everyone was focused on the tires, I went back into the parking area to retrieve my shoes. After finding them and while putting them on, I noticed some of the other guys were there. A brief exchange ensued, and soon after, Doug and David showed up and I yelled, "Kill them." Chad, Joey, and Lance began running, with Lance soon falling to the ground. Catching up to Lance, we began kicking him with me on his side, David the other, and Doug kicking his head. Not long after, Troy started calling for us to leave. In the early morning hours of June 27th, officers arrived at the condo, placed my brother and I in handcuffs, and brought us to the substation. This is when we were notified Lance Adele was killed. The gravity of someone being killed as a result of my actions weighed heavily upon me, forever altering my core sense of being. I did not want to be the kind of person who could take a life. Choosing to not address my disputes with violent behavior allowed me to move forward in my life while incarcerated in ways such as learning the automotive trade, which led to my becoming one of the first reentry vocational mentors, a program created to offer trade skills to inmates in an alternative sentencing program designed to assist in countering recidivism. While doing this, I was able to receive multiple ASC certifications. Then moving on from this to helping the creation of a machine shop located at the Angola Ranch House, a shop that was able to assist Angola's workforce as well as other institutions' maintenance departments. This opportunity led to a certification in metalwork, which was utilized in the renovation of the prison's historic Red Hat cell block. Accomplishing all this while still lacking the necessary life skills to manage socially, I continued using substances as a coping mechanism. After years down the path of substance abuse, I finally reached a point where I had to ask for help. Attending a recovery ministry helped me discover the things about myself which led me to act out or use substances to cope. Breaking free of addiction with the support and guidance of security and inmate pastors and inmate mentors, I began to mature in my thinking, behavior, and emotions. I learned to consider life's challenges as an opportunity to grow rather than turn my frustrations into crises in order to excuse and justify an inability to cope without the use of substances.
Throughout this process, I attended classes like Celebrate Recovery, which gave me real-world approaches at applying biblical principles in my daily life and thinking for a change, which helped me to become more conscious of my thoughts rather than be controlled by them. Thus, it needed me to take more responsibility for the decisions I make. Now, in taking accountability, I desire to be responsible for more positive outcomes and apply myself in ways to achieve this, not just in my life, but in the lives of others. In ways such as taking part in the New Men Addiction Recovery Program in Angola, which segregates addicts from regular population as an intensive in-house rehabilitative effort combined with the Sober Living Unit to help reacclimate addicts to a sober lifestyle. In each, I fill the role of peer support minister and sponsor, facilitating and co-facilitating classes. Also, after moving on from Angola to Hunt, recognizing another need where addicts were struggling, myself and a group of like-minded men came together in the creation of the Sober Living Unit, a program very similar to that of New Men. I'm now 6 years sober and act as extended support to programs such as those. I still seek to help men overcome their addictions while steering them towards positive alternatives, be they programs, sober living facilities, religious functions, or just positive encouragement in the many challenges in the day-to-day function of prison life. My driving force is a desire to lead men to a better life, not the taking of their own or another's by any involvement in destructive activities resulting from destructive thinking. Either in prison or not, I will continue a lifestyle that is in contrast to who I was when I took Lance Dale's life. If this board votes for my release, I will immediately head to Colorado Springs, Colorado. My interstate compact was approved, and I will be living with my mother's sister, Nancy Pickett, and working for Nancy's daughter, Kristen Pickett, Nell, who is the owner of K9 Cuts LLC in Colorado Springs. Their support, as well as that of other family members located in Colorado Springs, combined with professional therapy, will assist in my continuing a life of recovery and becoming a contributing member of their community. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak and offer to Lance, his family, this board, and the people of Baton Rouge my deepest apology. There is no excuse for the trail of destruction left behind as a result of my actions. The impact of my reckless disregard for Lance and the resulting damage will forever be the driving force of my life, which is to now have a lasting positive influence on all those I encounter. I hope this is expressed in a life now committed to the restoration of other broken lives. Thank you.
All right. Warden, can you add anything to his behavior, his record, or anything like that?
As far as his behavior, Jake has been here since November of 2022. His last DB report, disciplinary report, was on 9/20/2018. So he hasn't had any disciplinary reports here at Hunt since being housed here. He does have a low title risk score. He has completed some self-help programs and some educational programs. He's also completed both phases of the pre-release program. He is a minimum level trustee here at Hunt.
Gordon, has he completed a DOC approved substance abuse treatment program?
No, ma'am, that's not reflected in what I'm looking at.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that information.
No, thank you, Warden.
Welcome.
Today we have people in support, and I'm going to start with your mother, Diane Jarrow.
Yes, my name is Diane Jarrow. I'm here today to express my unwavering support for my son, Jake Ortego, as he seeks a second chance through parole. During his incarceration, he has demonstrated remarkable growth and dedication to personal development. He has taken responsibility for his past actions and is actively engaged in programs that have helped him reflect on his past mistakes, and I believe he is ready to re-enter society as a responsible and contributing member. As Jake's mother, I have witnessed his transformation, and I am confident in his ability to reintegrate into society. He is eager for a fresh start and is determined to make the most of this opportunity and a sincere desire to build a positive future. He has achieved various certifications in vocational programs such as metalworking, electrical, in order to find stable employment if granted parole. I believe beyond a doubt that given the opportunity of parole, Jake will become a contributing member of society. I will provide him with the means of transportation and monthly financial assistance as he makes this transition. We have agreed that he will follow any guidelines put forth by his aunt and his parole officer. If Jake is granted, has already applied and been accepted at Alcott's and would leave Louisiana immediately with my sister Nancy Pickett to live with her. She will act as his mentor in helping Jake get established and ready to live on his own. I am committed to supporting him in his journey. My sister and her family, Jake's aunt and cousins, will be providing a stable and loving environment that will enable him to thrive. I believe that with a chance to rebuild his life, Jake will become a positive contributor to his community. I humbly request that you consider Jake's application for parole. I am confident that he will make the most of his second chance if granted. Thank you for the consideration and giving Jake the opportunity to demonstrate his commitment to a crime-free and productive life.
Thank you. All right, we also have an aunt, Miss Nancy Pickett.
Sir. I would like to respectfully express my support for the parole consideration of Jake Artigo. I would also like to acknowledge the tragic loss of the death have suffered. My name is Nancy Pickett. I'm here from Colorado. Colorado has agreed to let him serve his parole time there. I'm 70 years old and live alone, and I think it would be mutually advantageous. I'm willing to fully support him in his quest to become an accessible, functioning member of society. I've already been to the courthouse in Colorado and have found numerous resources available to both of us. Should we have any questions or need guidance? Since we would leave the state, I think it would be easier to make a fresh start and smoother transition. I do know there will be some difficulty for all of us. Over the course of his incarceration, I've witnessed significant and genuine change in Jake. He has taken responsibility for his actions and demonstrated sincere remorse for the harm he has caused. Jake has also shown a consistent commitment to self-improvement by participating in many programs and earning numerous certificates. I think this shows his desire to live differently and contribute positively. If parole is granted, Jake will have a strong support system. I'm prepared to assist him, and he will also have the support of family and numerous friends. Together, we will ensure his stability and provide structure and ongoing encouragement as he rebuilds his life. I fully understand the seriousness of the board's responsibility and do not take this recommendation lightly. I offer my support because I genuinely believe that Jake has earned and he deserves the opportunity to demonstrate the positive changes he has made. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we also have in support Allison Edgar, but she is not speaking. And we also have in support Jennifer Cameron, who will be speaking. So let's hear from Ms. Cameron.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of my friend and client, Jake Ortego. Jake endured a violent childhood. He watched his father beat up his mother and brother, later beating Jake as well. Jake, small for his age, began fighting when people were bullying him in middle school. He turned to the rage he had seen his father use, fighting to establish a name for himself. After Jake began having further issues at school, his mother issued an ultimatum: enter the Navy like he had been dreaming of and get his life right, or leave. 3 weeks after turning 18, Jake was set to ship out. He, his brother, and his friends, highly intoxicated after splitting 3.5 to 4 cases of beer among 4 people by way of funneling 2 of them at once, were celebrating and heard about a fight happening at Highland Road Park. Jake and I grew up in the same neighborhood, And while it may seem odd, there was a lot of fighting going on in the area back then. I never understood why, but it was not abnormal for us to get a call to go watch a fight. It was also not abnormal for people from the neighborhood to participate in those fights. Jake has done a good job of conveying to this board what he remembers and what he's been told about that night. So I won't go through it again. But what I would like to emphasize is that Jake and his group had no plans to participate in that fight. They were there to watch. An absolute travesty occurred when one of the members of the group that did show to fight died that night. Recalling the details of that night is a struggle for Jake. And if you review the court records and statements of others, Jake has now sat before this board twice, taking full responsibility for everything that happened, even things that were not attributed to him by others. What this shows is that Jake knows that without the decisions he made that night, we would not be here. It's a maturity not often seen with offenders. When Jake learned Dell had died, he knew he needed to change who he was. Lance's death had a huge impact on many people, and Jake would never be the same. As Jake thought about what happened and listened to the information presented at trial, he realized he did not want to be the person they were talking about. He did not want to be a violent person like his dad. He has since worked diligently to change himself. Research has shown that the part of the brain that controls rational decision-making is not fully developed in young men until the age of about 26. Jake was far younger and made decisions based on impulse rather than reason. He spent his time since that night learning to control his anger and address the underlying issues that caused the immediate violent reaction when he got hit. He began taking classes immediately to learn how to do better and be better. Jake notes thinking for a change taught him to control those reactions to things, and Celebrate Recovery helped him identify what he needed to do to control his drug problem, which began in earnest after Lance died. Jake has had to cope with the fact that he took a life, and as much as he was working to be a better person, the weight of Lance's death affected him so profoundly that he began taking drugs to escape the pain. He had been dabbling in drugs before his incarceration, but while incarcerated, he was introduced to heroin and meth. He suffered with this addiction until 2018, when he realized he was surrounding himself with people who were keeping him exposed to drugs. He voluntarily approached a warden at Angola and asked to be moved to a different dorm. That move, along with the information that Jake learned through AA and Celebrate Recovery, allowed Jake to finally take charge of his own life. He lives the tenets of AA and Celebrate Recovery every day. He works hard to maintain his sobriety and plans to continue to do so. While incarcerated, Jake has been serving his community. As he told y'all, he was one of the first reentry mentors at Angola. He also helped establish the machine shop that has saved the state thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. Jake holds multiple professional certificates. He also helped to create the New Men program at Angola before he was moved to Hunt, where he created a similar program. He still serves as a sponsor in the program. Jake's disciplinary record demonstrates his issues with drugs, but since he's been sober, he has had no further write-ups. During the last hearing for Jake's clemency, it was stated that neither Jake nor his family had apologized to the AL family. While that's not allowed under Louisiana law, Jake did participate in the victim offender dialogue at their request. He did what he could to answer the family's questions honestly and completely. Unfortunately, we understand that the Adele family chose not to meet him at the end of that program. The process of the victim offender dialogue is long and forces offenders to face what they've done in a way that other DOC programs do not. Depending on the questions from the victim's family, the process forces offenders to relive one of the most intense, traumatic times of their lives. I have seen members who participated in the program, including Jake, stress so much that they began losing weight and suffering anxiety. I am so proud of him for getting through that process without using drugs again. If Jake can get through that process without relapsing, he can get through anything. Jake's reentry plan includes moving to Colorado, where he will live with his aunt and work with his cousin. I've confirmed that the IPOX has been approved, and Jake plans to seek individual counseling to continue his sobriety and deal with the issues he may encounter as he re-enters society after being incarcerated for 25 years. We ask this board to recognize that Jake has done everything he can while incarcerated and rehabilitate himself. He does not pose a threat to public safety, and it will not serve anyone for him to remain incarcerated. We humbly ask the board to grant Jake mercy and give him a chance to re-enter society under whatever provisions you see fit. Thank you.
Thank you. That would conclude our people here to talk in support. We have several people to speak in opposition, and I will let y'all choose who wants to go. You would be Miss Terry Mathern?
Yes, sir.
This is Miss Terry Mathern, the victim's aunt.
Thank you for allowing me to come today and speak on behalf of Lance. We are his only voice now because he has none. My name is Terry Mathern. I am Lance's aunt and godmother, and pretty much raised him half of his only 6 years of his life. I know you are all familiar with the case, but I am too. I have relived it. I have gone over it for 26 years. I learned what happened. So I hope you have studied the case as much as what I have. The why it happened, we'll never know. But what went wrong was Jake Ortego. Jake Ortego made the decisions he made that night. Not Lance Audell, that was there to watch a fight, not participate. Because Lance Audell had never been in a fight in his life before. He was there with some new friends, which Jake knows, Joey Casamini. So I guess Lance was caught in the middle between two groups of friends, and he was the long one. As I say, two groups of young adults got into a fight that night. Whenever it tried to break up, and the group that Lance was with left. But Lance was the only one left behind. And Jake proceeded to fight just Lance, because he was the only one left there. As Lance fell, as trying to get away, Jake continued to kick him on the ground in his head. Witnesses also said that Jake jumped on his head. Lance was there left on the ground. Jake and them attempted to leave, but they realized their tires were cut on their vehicle. They couldn't go anywhere. At this point, Lance, stumbling, trying to get up, trying to run away from Jake. Jake chased him down willingly, and continued to beat on him until a girl that was with Jake's group pleaded with him to stop, because he did not believe Lance was breathing anymore. So what did they do? They retreated to the woods and hid. And as Jake said, he realized he forgot his shoes. That was so important. He forgot his shoes. So he went back to the park where this took place. Did he look on the ground and see the body that he had beaten and left for dead? No. Did he call for help? No. Did he have any second thoughts? No. Jake left back and proceeded to hide. So as Jake said, that night, whenever the fight that he supposedly wasn't going to fight, but yet he verbally said out loud, to kill them. And it looks like that's what he did. But Lance was the object of that act, not by his choice, by Jake's choice. Only Jake made that choice. Because it was only Jake that fought with Lance, with no one around at that point. Lance was just a bright, kind, and loving kid. He was a kid. He hadn't even got his driver's license. He didn't get to go to prom. He didn't graduate from school. He didn't get to live out his life because of George, because of Jake's choice. Jake took his life. He took a part of our lives. He broke us. He broke our family in so many ways that we will not recover. I hope you can see that, because that's how we feel. The pain is as raw today as it was that night when I got that phone call at 12:15 in the morning and said they had killed our Lance, not knowing possibly what could have happened. An accident, kids get in fights, accidentally he could have fell, he could have hit his head. No, it was nothing so minor as that. It was a brutal attack. And he says, after he realized Lance was dead, he wanted to change his life, Well, let me tell you what happened after that. Every court appearance we made, Jake walked in there with his chest all bowed and done this. He was proud of what he had accomplished because he wanted people to know just how tough he was. There was even an incident at the courthouse when we so happened to get into the elevator. And who was in the elevator? But Jake and his mother. And he looked at us and he said, do y'all really want to get in here? And we just looked at him. Yeah, we're going the same place. Do you want to happen to you what happened to him? That was Jake's words that day. I vividly remember that. And it was 2 years before we went to trial. And then 2 years later, let's see, he had remorse. He wanted to change his life. He did the same thing then. 2 years throughout that trial that we had to listen to what Jake did. He had that same tough, bowed up look like, come and get me. That was Jake 2 years later. There was no remorse then. There's no remorse now after 26 years. And let's see, right, he did go through the victim's thing. My daughter attempted to do it, but we did not cancel it. They canceled it. The program canceled it because we were having this hearing that same year, and it was within weeks of the time. The Idell family did not cancel because, trust me, we would have loved to see Jake face to face and see what he had to say then. So as I go, it's 25 years. 25 years. Considered the value of Lance's life that he did not have compared to Jake's, the murderer. I don't believe. And I don't believe 18 years of him being on drugs, let's see, to cope with it? No, to have fun. Wasn't to cope with it, because he was coping with it just fine right after the murder. He had no problems. So I do not believe 25 years is enough for the value of Lance's life that he never had a chance at living. And this was not done to Jake. Jake done this to himself, his own choice. And the choice was, he did it by his own hand. You tell me what person sits there, even after the fight has broke up and the guy is on the ground, already almost dead. And do you want to know what he done to him? Because I went and spoke with the coroner afterwards. What was the result of what Jake did, if you want to know just how bad it was, he actually said his brains were trying to come out from his nose, his ears, and his mouth. Does that tell you the rage that this person had? And you're gonna tell me what was in that young man's mind, body, thoughts is not still buried down in there? Because I believe if he had the chance and he was met with somebody that he thought, I'm gonna get the better of him, he would try. That's what I think, because he won't even look at me.
Please address us, please.
So I don't see any more remorse there today. All these meetings, he's so apologetic. Not one tear has ever fell from his eyes, not one. So I beg of you to understand the feelings that we have went through. And I do not feel that this 25 years is enough for Jake Ortego to know that I can go out and live my life now. And I'm not gonna have a problem at all. And I beg of you for this young kid, that was a wonderful, wonderful kid.
How old was Lance at the time?
Lance was 16 and a half. As I said, he hadn't even got his driver's license. So it was not his choice to drive up and meet this fight. He was riding it, and I said to this day, it was his mistake, because supposedly the new friend that he had met and had a car, who doesn't want to go with their friends when they got a car? But coincidentally, he was also a friend with Jake's. Lance was the only one there that was not known by any of the people there. So I think that's why he was attacked, because no one knew him. So I beg of you, please consider what Lance went through to what Jake is going through. I don't think there's a comparison. So I beg of you, please, not this time, at least not this time. Give us more time. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll hear Brandy. Brandy Hughes?
Yeah.
All right.
Unmute your microphone.
Okay, I think I have it fixed now.
All right, thank you.
First, thank you for listening to us today. My name is Brandy Hughes. I strongly oppose the parole of Jake Ortego. I would like to express how strong my opposition is to the possibility of the release of this individual. The brutal murder of Lance Odell had a significant and lasting impact on my life. And I feel it is important that the parole board understands the concerns that I continue to carry. Although time has passed, I still experience emotional, psychological, and practical related to this case. These effects influence my daily life, my sense of safety, and my overall well-being. Based on my experiences throughout this process, I do not believe that release at this time would be appropriate or would provide me or my family with the reassurance and security that we need to move forward. I ask the board to consider the ongoing impact of Jake's crimes, what they have had on our life, and the serious concerns I have about the potential risks associated with his early release. I appreciate the opportunity to share my perspective and trust the board will weigh it carefully. I'm going to leave you with the last words that Lance said. He lay there on the ground, bleeding to death, internally, bleeding in the brain. The last words as he laid on that ground was, "Mama, Mama, Mama, thank you."
All right, I think we understand what she's trying to tell us. Can we hear from Mr. Mathern?
Be short. Laws the law, he was given life, no parole. And he got committed to life with parole. Understanding that? Only by his own admission. He said, I've only been sober 6 years. His first 18, 19 years in there, he did what he wanted to do. So I'm not convinced that he's completely recovered. I think he's found a good spot then. If he's helping the other people and helping himself, I think he needs to stay there a little bit longer and continue this program. I do not think he's ready to come out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. And we have Ms. Tracy Barber with the DA's office.
Good morning. Thank you, Tracy Barber, for the 19th Judicial District Attorney's Office. Let me first let you know that Mama that Brandy just referred to emotionally could not be here today. I stood in this room with other family members 2 years ago for the clemency hearing for Jake ago, and Lisa could barely stand up from this building. There are health concerns going on right now, but I assure you that everything she said to the burn board 2 years ago, she would be saying to you, and the grief you've seen from the family members is a daily struggle for them. And were she emotionally able to be here today, she too would be with you to speak. The facts and circumstances I have been very accurate described to you, and I know that you have been a faithful investigation. I was the trial attorney in this case, and I assure you that the emotions and the trauma that went on in Judge Richard Anderson's courtroom throughout these proceedings was difficult for all involved. Yes, we were dealing with very young people who made very bad decisions that night at the park. Ms. Cameron speaks of all the studies that have been across the world about the development of the brain and the difference between the 16, 17, 18-year-old brain and a 26-year-old brain. I just reiterated that Jake Ortego continued to commit crimes, violate the law, and we have a 26-year-old brain in the Department of Corrections. I do not know why the subsidies continue this to help him deal with the fact that he was incarcerated or to help him deal with the fact he had killed a 16-year-old boy. Maybe it was a combination of both. But the bottom line is that it did occur. And I heard his family members say he wanted to be given the opportunity, or they wanted him to have the opportunity to live a productive life crime-free. I submit to you that he has been living a productive life to the Department of Corrections. I have the utmost respect for these programs that the department has set up and the programs that Jake Ortego is participating in. Unfortunately, he did continue to use substances. I don't know the exact circumstances of how he obtained them, but I dare say because he was placed in positions of trust that enabled him to potentially get his hands on those substances. But he has lived a productive life, not the productive life that maybe Lance would have given an opportunity to live, or that others in this room have lived, but he has done good things in the Department of Corrections. As by his own admission, he has been 6 years sober. And I submit to you that yes, we are here today to talk about remorse and responsibility, but there needs to be accountability. And I do not think that the 25 years he's been in there have truly been 25 years of accountability. The last 6 years have been years of true accountability because he has remained sober. He has refrained from disciplinary write-ups. Ms. Cameron said if he were able to get through the victim dialogue without relapse, he can get through anything. So I respectfully submit today, let's see if he can get the parole tomorrow. without relapse. So then we'll see you again at some point in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Besides the district attorney office being opposed, we have opposition from the sheriff's office. Rule letter stating opposed due to violent offense. We have opposition from the chief of police, not served enough time, and we have opposition from the attorney general's office. Your case has been assigned to Ms. Ledoux, and she's going to ask you a couple of questions before the vote.
Actually, Mr. Barra, based on all of the testimony today and my thorough review of the case, I don't have any questions of Mr. Artigo. Thank you for the packet by his attorney. I gleaned a lot of information. The Department of Correction does have basic for parole. You have not met the substance abuse programming requirement. You have done some very good things though. So I'm going to turn my time over to my colleagues if they have questions.
Mr. Tillis, you got any question?
Yeah. Mr. Jake, you said your growing up was kind of rough. Father?
Sir?
You said when you were growing up, your father was kind of rough with you?
It was more so with my mother and my brother. He was very violent. He was a drug addict. He was kind of a raging drug addict. And, he was very destructive.
What kind of work did your dad do?
Sir?
What kind of work did your dad do?
All right, the only job that I'm aware he ever had, I passed 8 years old, I didn't have much to do with him. But his mother owned a trailer lot and he just was a maintenance man, kind of moving trailers around, took care of the lot. As far as I know, that's all he's ever done.
So you didn't spend much time with him?
No, sir.
And I have no more questions.
Mr. Barra,
Go ahead.
this is Assistant Warden Russ. Researching Jake's master prison record, I did find during his annual assessment in 2023, he did complete substance abuse treatment and anger management here at home.
Okay.
Which program was that?
It's just showing substance abuse treatment. It didn't give me a name. It's just saying completed both.
This is Assistant Warden Buttress. That we offer a residential drug abuse treatment program here. It's and I believe what you're referring to is possibly the Steve Paul program, more of a long-term substance abuse program. This is a more abbreviated program that we offer here at Hunt. It's an in-house program where you live in the dorm for a period of time and you do graduate from that. It is recognized as a certified treatment and rehabilitation program, but it is a more abbreviated substance abuse treatment from what I believe you're referring to, like a Steve Paul.
Thank you. I'm prepared to vote. My vote today is to deny parole based on lack of institutional progress and the opposition from victim and law enforcement.
Mr. Tillis.
I concur with Ms. Ledoux.
And I'm going to concur also, vote to deny, but do commend you on the work you've done there for the past 6 years. I encourage you to keep on doing a good job like you are doing now and show us how you handle this one. So today, this means that your parole has been denied, and this would conclude our business with Mr. Artigo at 11:16.
And a swift denial. You see, the new board, they don't have loyalty to the old board, the old governor. Sure, Governor Edwards may have commuted the sentence, but that don't mean you're going to get parole. And I have to bring this up. It's just the contrast between hearing the support side and it carried over from the last hearing to the victim side. The support, they're driving in their cars. It's like, what's the big deal? It's just support. And um and it's like, taking the call. One of them was like under a beach umbrella or something. And the victim side, you have, who was it that was just speaking so Terry, the victim's aunt, she's just leaving the most epic mic drop. Just such a like an orator, like a district attorney, just laying down the facts of the case so emotionally, so passionately. And she does that right after we hear from their family and his attorney. And if you guys have been around this channel long enough, you'd recognize that attorney. I think she gets on a lot of our nerves. There was that one hearing we saw where she was like rubbing the man's hand for, it was just really, he even got awkward. He took his hand away from the table. And even in this case, she starts to rub his back. And the whole thing is a show. It's a disturbing show. It really is nauseating. I think it was Terry, the aunt, who even said, who was saying, like, he has shown no emotion. He has shown not shed a single tear. And it's true. If you look at the table, there's no tears. There's no emotions. However you feel about this case, when his attorney says, well, and this was, and by the way, she was, I don't know if you caught it, but she was, it was a diss. It was like an under the table, even more than under the table. It was a diss to the victims. And really, how dare you? She says, well, he went through the victim, what's it called? It's basically, the process of where you go through writing the victim letter, an accountability letter, and then maybe meeting with the victim's family. And she's like, it was so stressful for him to write it. Most people, this is the hardest thing for them to do. I saw him losing weight while he was writing it. It was so hard. I was like, BS. And then she goes, and the victim's family, they never even showed up. But it was so stressful for him. And it's like, lady, you're just an idiot. Like, you're just, no one believes that scenario. No one believes he got so stressed out. He lost weight. It sure looks like he could lose a little bit. That wouldn't be a bad thing for him. But maybe you should write a few more letters. And then she does the jab by saying, and they never even showed up. But if he could survive writing those letters, the accountability letters, and not go off the wagon, then surely he could survive anything. And it's like, wow, you think we're really stupid. You just think we're stupid. And then we hear from the victims, and you hear from just the pain, really, of everybody, the authentic, genuine pain. And it always is just worlds apart. And then you have Tracy, who came in, and she's so incredible. And she doesn't just say things. Like, we've seen DAs, they'll come up and they read the standard speech, and it's like pre-written or written by one of their staffers with the help of ChatGPT or something, and there's no meat on the bone. But Tracy, she's so graceful in the way she does it, and authentic. And she basically it was beautiful because she took the pathetic statements by his attorney and used it against her and said, and she used it right back. And she said, well, first of all, she brings up, so they say the age and that a brain isn't fully developed until 26 years old, but he was 26 years old when he did the intoxication, and he was, and she starts lifting off the ages. And then she comes, right? So she's like, she's not just reading the script, she's like probably writing the script or putting notes on the script as the hearing goes, and then she's just ready for action. And then she goes on to say, So if you can get through the victim's dialogue, all right. So his attorney says that the victim's dialogue was so stressful without relapsing. Well, then I actually would say I think this would be a little more stressful than the victim's dialogue. Let's see how he reacts to getting denied parole. Boom. That was it. That was the mic drop. It was so skillfully done, and, like and also, like, it was like, yeah, you wanna pull a quick one? You wanna call us all stupid? You wanna actually use the words that going through the victim's dialogue because you had to write a letter would be so stressful? Nothing else could be more stressful in the world than that." She's like, "Well, why don't we see how he does?" Um I don't know, also the Chucky Tillis blender. It's like aunt you have the Aunt Terry who's giving just a sermon of epic proportions. I was on the edge of my seat. I don't know about you. And then Chucky cuts her off and says, "Talk to us, not the victims." And it's like, what? Like, not the victims, talk to us, not the other family. The other family's all on the TV in the room. Like, she's not talking to them. What are you saying, Chucky? Chucky. And then he asked the question, like, "Did you say your father beat you?" And he's like, "Yes." "Okay." I don't know. Again, it's really not a simple like in the state of Connecticut, this parole hearing or even any other, Iowa, Utah, he would have been paroled after serving a few years. In Connecticut, they'd be pardoning him right now. They'd be expunging his record. So Louisiana, it is really tough. It is really tough. And look, had he not gone into that fight and had he gone into the Navy and, he could have, who's to say he would have done anything like this again? It is a tough case. I'll tell you that. But it's not like the family, I think they view themselves as the victims, even after reading that post. I think say that he didn't even do anything wrong. I mean, he was defending himself. He should have never gotten arrested. And then you just think about a 16-year-old boy, and I can't help but think about just myself or siblings or friends. It's like you could be that 16-year-old kid in the wrong place at the wrong time and just be killed. I mean, I was jumped in my life. I woke up in the hospital with my mother and father sitting next to me because they were called that I was dying. So I mean, I think we've all, if we've been in things have been have just, I don't know, in this case, it really is something. It really is something. I think they will end up paroling him after he ends up serving all 25 years. But he will come back for another parole hearing in 2 years, 2027. The family has to go through this over and over and over again. And it's a pain that will never go away. And with that, I'll let you go.
I am so proud of him for getting through that process without using drugs again. If Jake can get through that process without relapsing, he can get through anything.
I'm gonna leave you with the last words that Lance said. He lay there on the ground, bleeding to death, internally bleeding in the brain. The last words as he laid on that ground was, "Mama, mama, mama." Thank you.